Hi everyone, this is Annie, and today we're going to make this adorable little Let's Do Lunch 3D lunchbox with a colored image. So I'm starting with a SVG cut file from our sister website, SVG Cutting Files, and we are using the LUNCHBOX box cut file. So you get all the little pieces that you can cut on your Cricut, your Cameo, your Scan and Cut. So I'm taking the bases and I am cutting them out of chipboard just because I want mine to be a little bit more sturdy. But if you have a nice thick cardstock, it's going to work as well. So it comes with it with the dash score lines and the cut lines. So I'm just bending back the tabs to start the form of what will be the bases of our lunchbox. So I'm just going to be doing this with the top piece and then again with the bottom piece. And just push those all down and have that ready to go. So next I'm going to use our hybrid ink in Pecan, and I'm just going to edge ink the edges of the project just to give it some contrast. And also to, when you have score lines and you have a white core paper, sometimes the white shows through. If I had solid core paper, I probably wouldn't do this step, but I did have white core paper and I didn't want the white part to show through on the score lines. So I'm using the hybrid ink to kind of cover up the white showing through, which you'll see when we get to our patterned paper. So we're just going to do all the pieces that are included in the cut file. This is the handle, makes the handle of the lunchbox, and you can see as I just folded that, the white core showed through. So I'm just trying to darken that up because I didn't want that to show. If you have a nice solid color cardstock, obviously you won't have to do this step. So we're just going to continue to ink the edges of our papers. And now we're going to be able to start our assembly. So this is the band that makes the lunchbox. I just put some double-sided tape on the bottom of the band for demo purposes, but had this been something I was doing, I would be using liquid glue instead, because then I would get a better connection and it would adhere better. But basically you're just going to take the band and go around the edge of your score line, and it will completely make the form that you need for your lunchbox. And you're just going to go all the way around in doing this on the bottom of your lunch box base. And you're just going to want to make sure it is secured as best as you can. And where the pieces overlap on the band, I'm just gluing those together as well. And now we're going to repeat the same thing with the band for the top part of our lunchbox. And again, just follow and go around the scored edge of your tops, and it'll fit really nicely. And just glue any of that overlaps, and you'll start to see the shapes of both pieces forming. And there you go on your top piece. And again, just make sure it's secured down as best as you can. And then you're going to see that they fit together and they start to form the beginning of your lunchbox. I forgot to ink this piece, so we're just going to ink this really quick. This is the cover layer to the front of the box. So we'll just ink that up really quick, and then we can adhere it to the front of our lunchbox. And then we're just going to make sure we center it correctly and then go ahead and glue that right on. Okay, so now in the tops of these pieces, you can see how these tabs are a little bit loose. If I had used glue to put the band on, I would have been able to have caught the whole entire tab, but because I used a 1/4 inch tape, it only caught the bottom parts. So I'm just securing my tabs a little bit better so that it fits. Okay, so now we're going to do the handle really quick, and it just folds into the center on both sides to make a nice little sturdy handle for you. And again, everything comes pre-scored, so you don't have to worry about figuring out where anything needs to be done. And I'm just going to kind of start bending it to get the shape of the handle. And now we're going to be able to glue. Oh, we need to put our latch on first. So let's glue our little tab. And we're just going to center this to the front piece of our lunchbox. And you can add a magnet or Velcro or whatever you want to secure it. We'll show you how to do that at the end of the video. So now let's go back to doing our handle real quick. And again, we're going to glue to the front piece of our lunchbox. Make sure that it's on there and secured. And then go ahead and do our second side of our handle. And you can use clips or whatever if you need to hold it in to secure it while the glue dries. And we're going to go ahead and allow these pieces to dry. As we put it off to the side, and now we're going to go ahead and start coloring our Diana lunchbox stamp. So we're going to start with her skin, and I am taking my E04 and putting down the shadow darkest areas of where I think the light is hitting her. And then you'll take your E11 and you're going to go right over the E04 and extend it out just slightly, so you're starting to get that gradient of the skin tone coming off the sides of the legs and this arms. So now our E21, again, going over the colors already laid and then extending it out further, just so that you're building the layers of color. Your E00, and now finally your E000. And you should start to see the gradient of the colors, but we always do 2 layers just so that the colors really pop and you can see the gradients that much better. So we start again with our E04. And now our E11. And now E21. And you're just repeating what you've already done. And you can see that the color is more vibrant with the second layer. E00. And finally our E000 to finish it off. And there you have our girl's body skin tone completed. So now we're going to start on her face using the same colors. Because her ears are so tiny, especially that one on the side of her hair, we're just going to go ahead and add a little bit of color just to get them finished because they're so small. And I tend to forget sometimes the ears and the neck when I'm coloring, and then I catch it at the end of my project, so get that out of the way now. So here's our E04, excuse me, laying down our darkest color. And now our E11, going right over that E04 and then extending it out a little bit past. And you can see that in this zoomed in era. You can see how I went over the E04, but then you can see the E11 is extended just a smidge past. Now your E21. And we're going to start with our E21, getting the rim of her eye started, so we leave that white area for her. And there's our E00. And your first layer is basically just to lay down the base colors because the blending comes in a lot easier on your second one. Now I'm just adding my rosy cheek colors, which is my R22. And I'm just going from the bottom of that last eyelash and starting to curve around her cheek. And then with my R20, continuing around the rim of the eye on the bottom half, keeping that white area, and then on the other side as well. Just to start getting the shape around her eye. And then you're going to use your E00 just to blend out that R20 so it'll go into the skin tone. And now I'm taking my E000 and just filling in the rest of the color here. And now we'll start with our second layer. So back to our E04. And now our E11. Our E21. E00. back to doing the cheeks, R22. And then our R20. Our E00 just to blend out the cheek color, and then our E000 to connect everything. And there you have our skin done on our cute little girl. So let's begin the hair, and we're using our E59. And we're just going to start flicking the dark areas of the hair for the shadows of where they're going to come. So that's going to be anything that is underneath another part or another section of hair, and then any of like the root areas. So underneath the bow is going to be a dark area, and then the root areas on the other side. And now we're going to go with our E44. And we're just going to do the same flicking motions, but this time we're going to go further down the hair to start getting to a point where they're going to meet in the middle. And then our E43. And you have a cute little brunette, but I like to kick it up a little bit, so I'm using my YR27. And this is just going to give a little bit of like a goldeny color brown to her hair. Okay, so now we're going to go back, and I'm just going to darken those root type areas on her just for a stronger contrast. Okay, and now we will start in on our next section of hair with that E59. And again, you're just going to start with this darkest color on the tips of the hair and anything that is underneath another section. So in those corners, and then our E44, extending it out. And then our E43, we'll connect it all together. And you could stop here. You don't have to add the YR27 if you just want like a lighter brunette type hair color. But again, I like to add the YR27 just to make her have a goldeny color to her hair. And then once again, taking our E59 and darkening in those shadowy areas. And then we will move on to our next section of hair. And again, our E44 is up next. And then the E43 to connect it all. And let's add her little highlights of color with our YR27. And then just playing with the marker colors again, just to darken up areas and smooth out blends. And there is the top sides of her hair, and now we need to do her underneath. And I am just going to go around the line underneath her face, just so I can, because it's a smaller area, I'm just going to be able to pull down those lines and the strokes a little bit easier. And then the E44. Extend that down. And here's our E43 in the middle, connecting it top to bottom. And now some YR27. And just make long strides in there just to help hint out that she has that little golden brown down there. And now we're going to go ahead and start on the opposite side. So again, with my E59, I am just tracing the line underneath her face. And then we're going to pull down some stroke lines. And then from the underside, we're going to go up from the bottom with the same E59. Now we have our E44. Okay, so now that her hair is done, we're going to start on her clothing. We're doing her in some pretty purples. So we're going to take our first color, VO9, and we're just going to start laying down our dark creases under the collar, around her waistline. And then I like to do like little folds in the clothing, totally optional. And then we're going to do the one side of the skirt here. Bring that over. And now we're going to use our V06 going over what we just colored and extending it out further. And then we're going to take our V05. This adds a little bit of a pinky purple to it, I guess you could say. And just keep adding your layers. And again, this is only the first layer, so it's going to look a little blotchy, and that's okay. When you go back the second time, smooths out. So here's our V04. Yes, sometimes it's going to look like a hot mess. And once you start getting that paper nice and saturated and you add the second layers of color, and then it just all fuses together a lot better, and it also allows you to see where you want to add and change things up. So here we back are with our V09. I just want to define those shadows, but now because that was such a harsh line on her skirt, I am going to feather it out a little bit more so it's not just a line. So now our V06, our V05, and now our V04. And you can see when I zoom away, the shadowing looks more like she has the folds in her clothing. So now we're going to go ahead and do her headband, same colors. Starting with our V09, getting in those dark edges on both sides of her little band. And then our V06. Our V05. And then our V04. And you can see there's a bit of a gradient in that headband. And then we're just going to darken these edges. And then extend. And it's just a very repetitive process from layer 1 to layer 2. And now for her beautiful big old bow, that V09, we are going to go around the edges of her bow, and then in that fold of her bow, a little bit on the knot, and then on this bottom edge and those little folds. And now with our V06, going over the lines of the VO9 and extending it out. And we want the gradient of the bow here to be darker on the bottom and then getting lighter towards the top. So there's our VO5. And then finally our VO4. And we're going to do our second layer because now we can see where we need it to be darker to really pull off that whole shadow gradient area. So we need to make this area actually darker. And then go in with our VO6. And then our VO5. And then finally our VO4. And now you should see the gradient going better. And then I noticed we missed a section of her hair over here. So I'm just going to quickly color that in with two of the hair colors just to at least give it some depth in there. Okay, so now her clothing is done. And we're just going to really quickly color in her mouth because we forgot her mouth. So here's our R24. And then our R39 just to put a little shadow onto the side. And then blend it out with our first color. And there's her mouth. Now we're going to do her lunchbox. And we're just going to do the band of her lunchbox in greens. So we have our G07. And then our YG06. And then our YG03. And we're just going to do our quick second layer. This is a small little area, so it goes by really quick. We just wanted to add the green. Okay. So now we're going to go and we're going to do the inside of the lunchbox, and I just wanted to have it have some color, so I'm just going to take my RVO6 and make some dots, and then my RVO4, and then my RVO2. You're just going to use the very tip of your marker. And then we're going to use the same colors for her little waistband here. So that's RVO6, RVO4, and RVO2. And there is her band. You can do her collar if you want as well, but I wanted to leave her collar white. And we forgot her little part of her shoes. very small area. Okay, so now I'm going to take a white gel pen and add some polka dots for added interest to her headband and the bow. I love polka dots and I love doing this as a cute little detail. And you can go ahead and do her whole dress or just the bottom of her skirt, whatever your preference is. I just wanted to do her headband. And now I have my sentiment already stamped out on my banner die, and I am taking my top banner outline die and adhering that together. I've already foam dotted her to my lunchbox front, and now I am just going to add the sentiment as well. And placing that on. And now we need to do our little flap. So I have some sticky back Velcro, cutting it in half to fit on that little latch area. You could use a small magnet or whatever closure you would like. You could even dress up this lunchbox with brads on that handle to give it more of a metal-y look. I mean, there's so much you can do for the little lunchbox. And here is our finished product, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please join us over at Stamp Anniething Stampers, and we will see you there. Have a great day. Bye.